Jessica had always been the quiet one, the type of person who slipped out of conversations without being noticed. She worked at a cozy bookstore in a small Vermont town, loved rainy days, and preferred stories on paper to real-life drama. Her world was peaceful, maybe even a little lonely. But safe. Everything changed. The year her mother got remarried, her new stepfather was kind enough, though distant. But it was his son Adam who turned Jessica's world upside down. Adam was 32, just a few years older than Jessica. A freelance photographer from Seattle, he moved into their house temporarily while figuring out his next career step. He was easygoing, quiet, but observant, and always had a camera around his neck. Jessica didn't think much of him at first. They were polite, casual, nothing more. She thought they'd keep to themselves, pass each other in the hallways, and maybe share a few awkward family dinners. But then came the rainy afternoon that changed everything. She was curled up on the couch, reading her favorite novel with her legs tucked under a blanket. The soft sound of rain tapped at the window, and the light coming through the curtains made the room glow. Jessica didn't hear Adam come in until he spoke. "Don't move," he said. She looked up, startled. "Why?" "You look peaceful. Let me take a picture." "Just one." Jessica hesitated. She didn't like cameras. She never liked how she looked in photos. Too plain, too quiet, too forgettable. But Adam wasn't smiling to tease her. He looked thoughtful, almost serious. "Okay," she said softly. He lifted his camera. One click, and that was it. But it WASN single quotes. Later that evening, he showed her the photo. It was simple Jessica looking up from her book with a soft window light on her face. Her expression calm, half a smile playing on her lips. There was nothing glamorous about it, but something about the photo felt intimate. Jessica stared at it. "That doesn't even look like me." Adam didn't laugh or joke. He just said, "It looks like the you that you don't see." She didn't know how to respond, but the words stayed with her. From that day forward, something changed between them. Nothing was said out loud, but they both felt it. Adam started taking more photos, but never without asking. Just during simple moments. While she poured tea, when she tucked her hair behind her ear, when she stood barefoot on the porch in the early morning light, he never asked her to pose. He just waited for the quiet moments, the ones she didn't think mattered. At first, it made Jessica nervous. Then it made her feel noticed, seen, like she mattered. She'd spent her life fading into the background. But with Adam, she was in focus. One evening after dinner, they ended up in the kitchen cleaning up together. Adam was washing dishes and she was drying. The silence between them felt easy. "You really don't mind me taking your picture?" he asked quietly. Jessica glanced at him. "I used to hate it, but with you, it feels different." He nodded. "You're not performing. That's why I like photographing you. You're just being yourself." Jessica felt her cheeks warm. She didn't know what to say to that. So she smiled. They finished the dishes and went their separate ways that night. But the feeling lingered. Days passed, and Adam kept his camera close. But now, Jessica found herself waiting for it, wondering if he would notice the little moments. And he always did. One afternoon, they were sitting outside in the backyard. Jessica was flipping through a book, and Adam was tinkering with his lens. He suddenly looked up. "Can I show you something?" She nodded. He pulled out a small folder filled with printed photographs. They were all of her. Some she remembered him taking. Others were complete surprises. One where she was laughing. Another where she looked lost in thought. One where the wind caught her hair just right. Jessica looked through them slowly. Her breath caught. "I didn't think I could look like this," she whispered. Adam smiled gently. "You don't see yourself the way others do." There was a pause, long, thoughtful. Jessica finally looked up at him. "Why me? You could take photos of anyone. I've photographed people all over," he said. "But with you, it feels honest. Like I'm not just capturing a face. I'm seeing something real." His words made her chest ache in a way she couldn't explain. She stood up and walked back inside, unsure what to do with the way her heart was racing. That night, Jessica couldn't sleep. She thought about the pictures, about how he looked at her, about how she felt more seen in the past few weeks than she had her whole life. The next morning, she caught herself brushing her hair more carefully, choosing a softer sweater. Not for vanity, but for him. It was subtle, quiet, but something was changing, still. Neither of them said anything. There was a line between them, drawn not by blood, but by circumstance. They were step-siblings, not raised together, not close growing up. But the word itself made everything more complicated. Jessica told herself it was just kindness, just friendship, just the thrill of being noticed. But deep down, she wasn't sure. And one day soon, she would have to face what this all meant, because feelings, once captured, don't just disappear, especially when they're real. After that first photo, things between Jessica and Adam began to change, slowly but surely. Adam kept his camera close all the time, and whenever Jessica was near, he seemed to find reasons to take pictures of her. It wasn't forced or awkward, more like he was quietly capturing moments she didn't even realize were special. Jessica was surprised to find herself relaxing around him. She began to forget the old nervous feeling she had when someone tried to photograph her. Instead, when Adam pointed his camera at her, it felt like trust. Like he was seeing parts of her no one else cared to notice. One evening, Adam invited Jessica to see something. He laid out a series of black and white prints on the kitchen table, their edges slightly curled. They were simple, quiet photos of Jessica in the golden afternoon light, laughing with her head tilted back, standing by the window with rain streaking down the glass. Sitting barefoot on the porch stairs, Jessica looked at them, feeling exposed, but also touched. "Why did you take all these pictures of me?" she asked quietly. Adam shrugged, a soft smile on his lips. "Because you're different. Because you let me see the real you without trying." Jessica felt something stir inside her, something fragile but strong. It was the feeling of being accepted. Not for how she looked or what she could do, but simply for being herself. Over the next few weeks, their lives became quietly intertwined. They'd share meals, talk late into the night about books, art, and their dreams. Adam spoke about his passion for photography, how he wanted to capture truth, and how sometimes the most honest moments were the ones people didn't want to show. Jessica listened, captivated not just by his words, but by the way he seemed to understand her, even when she didn't say much. One night, after a long day, Jessica found herself alone with Adam on the back porch. The sky was clear, full of stars. She wrapped her arms around herself, feeling the cool night air. Adam sat beside her, silent for a moment. Then he said softly, "Jessica, can I ask you something?" She looked at him, heart beating a little faster. "Why do you hide so much of yourself?" She blinked, caught off guard. "I don't know. Maybe because I never thought anyone would want to see me for who I really am." He turned to her, eyes steady. "I want to see you. All of you." For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Jessica looked away, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. This was more than she expected, more than she was ready to face. Days later, Jessica caught herself wondering about Adam more often. His quiet kindness, the way his eyes softened when he looked at her, the way he never pushed her to be anyone else. But the word stepbrother echoed in her mind like a caution sign. It reminded her of the rules, the lines she was not supposed to cross. Still, when he wasn't around, she missed him. She found herself daydreaming about their conversations, about the way he laughed, about how safe she felt with him. One afternoon, while Adam was working on editing photos in the living room, Jessica sat nearby, flipping through a magazine. Without looking up, Adam suddenly said, "You know, I'm scared." She raised her eyebrows. "Surprised? Scared? I'm going to lose this sus before it even really begins." Jessica closed the magazine, heart pounding. "What do you mean?" she asked softly. Adam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel about you. About us, it's complicated. You're my stepsister, yes? But there's something here I can't ignore." Jessica's breath caught. She wanted to tell him she felt the same way, but the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she said, maybe some things aren't meant to be. Adam shook his head, a sad smile on his face. Maybe, but it doesn't make them less real. That night, Jessica couldn't sleep. She kept replaying their conversation in her mind. She wondered if it was wrong to want more, to feel something deeper. In the weeks that followed, they spent more time together, stealing quiet moments whenever they could. Sometimes they talked about the future, sometimes about their fears. Other times they just sat in silence, content to be near each other. One evening, Adam showed Jessica an album he'd made filled with photos of her over the past month. He'd titled it Unseen. Jessica flipped through the pages, tears welling up. Each photo told a story, the shy smile, the thoughtful gaze, the laughter she didn't know she had. Adam looked at her and said, I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you. Jessica reached out and took his hand, surprising herself with the warmth she felt. In that moment, the lines between them blurred. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know if they could be more than step-siblings. But she knew one thing. For the first time in a long time, she felt a live dot, and that was worth everything. Summer moved into their small town with slow warmth, bringing long days and soft nights that seemed perfect for quiet conversations. Jessica and Adam's relationship had grown deeper, more complicated in ways they hadn't expected. They shared easy moments, laughter, and stories, but underneath it all, an unspoken tension pulsed quietly between them. Jessica found herself watching Adam more often. The way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the gentle way he spoke about his photography. She noticed how her heart skipped when he entered the room, and how she waited for his texts, like they were lifelines in the quiet monotony of her days. But she kept those feelings locked away, hidden behind the label of stepbrother, a word that suddenly felt like a wall between them. One warm evening, after helping her clean the dusty attic filled with forgotten boxes and old memories, Adam pulled out a dusty photo album he found. The album was full of pictures from Jessica's childhood, awkward school photos, birthday parties, candid family moments. Jessica laughed softly at the braces and pigtails, embarrassed but touched. Adam studied the photos carefully, as if trying to understand the girl he'd come to care about. You've always been you, he said quietly, looking up at Jessica. She shook her head, feeling a lump in her throat. I don't even recognize that girl anymore. Adam's gaze softened. I do. The room seemed to hold its breath. Their hands brushed as Jessica reached for another photo. She didn't pull away. That simple touch spoke volumes about the distance they'd crossed and the feelings that were growing between them that night. Jessica stood in front of her mirror for what felt like hours. She didn't change her clothes or fix her hair. She just looked, searching for the person Adam seemed to see, the person she hadn't allowed herself to believe in yet. She traced the outline of her face, wondering if this version of herself could ever be enough. There was a knock at the door. Adam stood there, hesitant. I'm leaving next week, he said softly. I got a new project in Chicago. Jessica felt her heart drop. She hadn't realized how much she wanted him to stay. That's great, she replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. He stepped inside, space between them suddenly feeling much smaller. I wanted to tell you in person, because I didn't want to leave without saying goodbye properly. Her voice caught. What does goodbye look like? Adam looked at her like he wanted to say everything but held back. I guess. I was hoping you'd tell me. The silence stretched. Neither crossed the threshold between them. Days passed in a blur of unspoken words. Jessica found herself avoiding the empty spaces where Adam used to be. The house was quieter, colder without him. She caught herself staring at her phone, hoping for a message. But there was none. One evening, she sat alone on the porch, wrapped in a blanket. The stars were bright, but they couldn't chase away the ache in her chest. She remembered his words. I was hoping you'd tell me. What did she have to say? The next morning, Jessica took a deep breath and decided to be honest with herself. She didn't want to let go of what they had, not without a fight. She found Adam before he left and pulled him aside. Wait, she said, voice trembling. Before you go, I need you to know something. He looked at her, curious. I don't want this to end. Adam's eyes widened slightly. Neither do I. They stood there for a moment, the weight of their feelings hanging between them. But the reality of their situation was clear. They were step-siblings caught between family and something more delicate, more complicated. Jessica reached out, taking his hand. We don't have to figure it all out right now. Just don't leave without knowing how I feel. Adam squeezed her hand gently. I promise. That night, they sat together, talking about the future, about the fears and the possibilities. They didn't have answers. But they had each other, and sometimes that's enough. The morning Adam was set to leave, the house felt unusually still. Jessica woke early, a mix of nerves and hope swirling inside her. She dressed quietly, trying to calm the storm of emotions she couldn't yet name. She wasn't sure if this goodbye was an ending or the start of something new, something uncertain but full of possibility. Adam was downstairs, packing the last of his camera gear into a worn leather bag. The light from the window caught his face, softening the edges of his usual serious expression. He looked up when Jessica entered the room. They exchanged a small, nervous smile. Without a word, Jessica stepped forward and handed him a small photo album. It was the one he had made unseen, filled with pictures of her that he had taken over the last few months. Her fingers trembled slightly as she spoke. Take this with you, so you don't forget what you saw. Adam's eyes softened, and he gently took the album. I won't. They stood there for a moment, the space between them heavy with everything left unsaid. Finally, Adam broke the silence. Jessica, I've been thinking about us. About what this means. Jessica swallowed hard. I don't know what it means, but I do know I don't want to lose what we have. Adam nodded slowly. Me too. He reached out and took her hand, warm and steady. We might not have all the answers right now, but maybe that's okay. Maybe this is just the beginning. Jessica felt a surge of hope she hadn't dared to feel before. The beginning. Yes, Adam said with a small smile. No matter what happens, you've changed the way I see the world. Tears pricked at her eyes, but she blinked them away. Instead, she leaned in, pressing a soft kiss on his cheek, a promise more than anything else. The drive to the airport was quiet. Jessica watched Adam from the window, feeling the weight of both loss and possibility. She knew things wouldn't be the same, but she also knew that the bond they shared, fragile, complicated, and real, wasn't something that distance could erase. In the days that followed, they kept in touch. Texts full of small moments and shared dreams, phone calls where they laughed and sometimes cried. They were figuring it out one step at a time. Jessica found herself opening up more to her mother, to friends, even to herself. She realized that being seen by someone else had given her permission to see herself differently, stronger, braver. One afternoon, as she sat in the bookstore where she worked, a customer asked about photography. Jessica smiled and told them about Adam's work, how he captured truth and beauty in unexpected moments. She felt proud, not just of him, but of herself. Months later, Adam returned, not just for a visit, but ready to build something new, not just as a stepbrother, but as someone who had come to mean everything. They met at the airport, their eyes lighting up with the same quiet joy they had shared months ago. Jessica knew their story wasn't simple. It wouldn't always be easy, but it was theirs. And sometimes, the most unexpected moments, like a picture taken in quiet sunlight, could change everything. Together, they were ready to face whatever came next.